Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible.com. Get a free audiobook download and a 30-day free trial at www.audibletrial.com/WiseGuyRadio. Over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. That's at www.audibletrial.com, AUDIBLETRIAL.com/WiseGuyRadio. This is the Wise Guy Radio Show, a podcast dedicated to educating and inspiring through conversations with today's top talents in the world of glass. We will be dissecting their journeys in hopes to deliver actionable content that you, the artist, can start implementing now, helping you grow not only as a creative spirit, but also a successful artistic entrepreneur. With a little organization, relationship building, and your artistic ability, you can obtain greatness. Climb aboard, whether an artist, retail owner, or enthusiast. We have a ton of fun in store for you. Welcome to the Wise Guy Radio Show. Hey, what's happening, everybody? Welcome to the Wise Guy Radio Show, episode number 35. This is J.Michael, your host, and I am super stoked to be here with you guys today. I have a lot of information on this show, including our first segment of the Glass Knowledge page that I do with Shane Penn. We are going to be talking about clear borosilicate glass, its origins and history, the uses that we use now in the areas of functional glass art and also science and everywhere else. So it's a lot of fun information. And also today guest is Kevin Kirschner, and he is a developer of a product called Naturalux, which is a UVA protective screen that goes over fluorescent lights. It's pretty interesting stuff, conversation-wise, a lot of knowledge. And he's going to be coming on in a next show sometime here in the near future to further discuss some of the topics that him and I covered. He's a very fascinating man and knowledgeable and is all about helping people. And part of the show, again, is helping you guys out. Actually, really all the show is. But yeah, man, so I'm sitting here today having a delicious English-style IPA made by Two Henry's Brewing Company out of Lakeland, Florida. They are part of a group over there. Keel and Curly is the winery that they belong to. Two Henry's Brewery is on site there, and they have just now finally gotten their beers out in the stores. I have not had a chance to actually go to the brewery itself, but I'm stoked to have access to it now. And I don't drink as many craft beers as I used to. I used to have at least one a day, but now I'm about one or two a week, if that. What I'm going to start doing is when I do my intros for my shows, which is sometimes 3 days a week, I'm going to have a beer with it. And going to talk about the beer because I know a lot of you out there are craft beer connoisseurs like myself and enjoy your beers. And so I figured I would talk about, or at least just discuss really quickly, what it is that I'm having while I'm recording this. And this particular IPA is definitely a little hoppier on the levels. I don't know, according to the can I'm looking at, what the actual scale number is, but I'd say it's probably on the 7-ish on a 1 to 10 scale of the bitterness of the hops. But other than that, it's 6% alcohol, and it is delicious. I am a huge fan of IPAs. I know a lot of folks are not, but whatever, you guys all have your tastes, and I appreciate your tastes. The pumpkin beers are now in, and I'm not touching them until October. I feel it's a little bit early for the pumpkin beer, especially because it's still 85 to 90 degrees here in Florida, and lager and heavier beers are not really good for me personally. A lot of folks, too, when it's hot outside. So I'm sticking to my IPAs until the weather starts to go below 85, I guess. I don't know, but it'll be soon. Every year I do a pumpkin beer tour, which I try as many pumpkin beers as I possibly can in the month of October into November, and we have a lot of festivals locally here for being in the St. Pete, Dunedin, Pinellas County area. We have a large variety of breweries that have been starting to open, and it's pretty exciting to see this all come here. We have a brand new one that's about to open up here really close to my house, and we have the tap houses, but I know all over the country and all over the world, really, the craft beer movement is strong and ongoing, and a lot of things are getting in areas of beverages, whether it's coffee or whiskeys, gins, and different bourbons and stuff are coming, and even the moonshine, the modern moonshine, are small batches. And it got me thinking about my glass and the idea of doing a small batch of glass. So those of you out there that may have seen on Instagram, on Labor Day I did a flash sale, which was basically my first small batch of an item that I made, and that item in particular won't ever be made again. So I'd say kind of an idea I've been coming up with where once a month I'm going to be releasing a limited edition line as kind of a small batch concept. And in the background you guys might hear my dogs. They are usually pretty good when I record, but right now they're being brats and not listening. So I pardon them. They're barking like right now or whatever. So, anywho, to move on with the show, let's see, what else? Make sure you guys do subscribe to wiseguyradio.com, to the newsletter. Weekly, I am giving you guys updates on the shows, insights to what has going on, exclusive content as well. And also on our website, we just uploaded our waiver form that I put out in last week's newsletter. For all you pipe makers out there to download. It's actually a download file that the link will take you to Dropbox. And for those of you that do not have a Dropbox account, Dropbox is free until you get to a certain file level. Then you got to pay like $10 a month for unlimited, more or less. I use Dropbox for everything out there, from loading pictures to the podcast. But it'll send you to a Dropbox account to register for one if you don't have one. Oakley, hey, psst, numbnuts. But when you download the link, it'll send you to Dropbox, and the Dropbox account I think you should get because it allows you to store files that are out in cyberspace, not on your phone or computer, to free up space for other things you need on there, like pictures and text messages and whatever. So download that waiver. Again, the waiver, as we say on the site, is not legal advice. It's just being proactive as we begin to move forward as the laws in our country change for cannabis. And we all stay on the same page because if we're all on the same page, we all work together as a community, and we get these guilds and unions eventually going for us, we'll have representation in the government, and we'll have a voice out there for all of us that we need so that when laws change federally, there won't be any kind of bullshit and potential delay that our industry will have to deal with. When the laws change, our laws and rules for us should also be changed as well at the same time, so we're all on the same page there. So there you go, guys. Again, I'm rambling here, so I'm going to let you go. Enjoy this IPA. Listen to my dogs go crazy in the house. Hey, Manly, let go of my sock. My dog likes eating my socks, so I got to go get my sock. Love you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Wise Guy Radio Show. Again, this is episode number 35, and we have the Glass Knowledge first segment with my buddy Shane, and also we have our special guest, Kevin, who is a founder and owner and entrepreneur for a product called Naturalux. All right, y'all. Take it easy. Flame on. And have a wise night. See you. Hey, Kevin, how you doing today, brother?
I'm doing good. How about yourself?
Doing pretty good, man. I am excited to have you on the show today, and especially because I've been looking for somebody to talk about the eyes and safety from UVA, UVB rays, and having my previous guest on, my friend Adrian, who hasn't been diagnosed with lupus yet, but she feels that that's probably the deal. She had actually purchased one of your products, which is what we're going to get into, and for her lighting, which has helped her tremendously. She is also at a point, though, where she can no longer really work in the glass shops because of just the light alone from the flame. But your product that we're going to be talking about and her conversation with me about it is what drew me to contacting you and wanting to share your story and this product with our guests or with the audience, because to me, besides all the exposure we have from our flames, I had no idea the amount of UV exposure that fluorescent light bulbs give us. So if you want to kind of give us a little background first on yourself, and then we can get into your products and kind of get into the history of the fluorescent light and really how toxic it is for us.
Very good. Well, again, my name is Kevin Kirschner, and I have been working in the vision care field since 1973. I started in the United States Air Force. I was trained in optometry. And after my 4 years there, I took further study at the University of Iowa, USC, UCLA, and Johns Hopkins. And my specialty is diagnostic ultrasound of the eye, none of which has anything to do with the Naturalux filters that I invented. But along life's pathway, I was introduced to a number of patients who were complaining of the headaches and eye strain from being under fluorescent lighting all day. So, of course, back in the 70s and 80s, the only way we knew to treat that was to put a tint, a certain color of tint in your glasses. some of your listeners might remember seeing people that had a pink tint in their glasses or even a blue tint. And some people were helped by the pink, and some people were helped by the blue, but not everybody was satisfied with the results. And so I started looking at the problem, and as I saw it, the problem was that if you had a tint in your glasses, the light still came in over the top of your glasses and in from the sides anyway. And so I had an idea that perhaps the best way to approach, taking care of these headaches and eye strain from the fluorescent lighting was to put a filter up in the light fixture itself. And that was basically the birth of the Naturalux filters.
Yeah, fascinating. Yeah, I guess when you wear glasses, you don't think about the light coming off the top. So, I guess the blue blockers that are out there that the senior folks wear,
right?
That really protect your eyeballs, or the glasses you get when, I went yesterday and got my my annual eye exam done, and my eyes were dilated, and it was kind of interesting walking. We had it done at the mall, and a lot of these new jewelry stores in there, it's all LED lights. So I would just kind of look over at the store, and I was blinded for a good 5 minutes afterwards. It's amazing.
Yep, absolutely. Well, and that brings up a perfect point about glare, because glare is an overabundance of light. That's basically the working definition of what glare is. Think of it this way, that glare is to light as noise is to sound. Anything too much and it's not comfortable. Okay, so a very simple screening test to see if you have glare in your environment is to simply hold your hand, your flat hand, above your eyebrows like a visor, and if that makes your visual environment more comfortable, that tells me you have glare.
Oh yeah, it makes total sense. Yeah, because I know a lot when I'm outside with my glasses on and the sun's at a certain angle, I'm holding my hand at the same height, blocking the glare from my eyes.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, you would not believe the customers that we have that send us photographs of how they have personally dealt with glare. We had one lady send us in a picture of her wearing, in the workplace, in a cubby, mind you, a sombrero. Okay, and then we had another lady send us a picture of her workspace where they had taken umbrellas and sort of position them in their cubicles so that it would block out the light. And other companies have sent us pictures where they've actually painted the ceilings black so as to remove the glare and the reflection off of the computer displays.
Crazy.
So people will do what they have to do to make it easier on their eyes and their vision.
Huh. So could you give us a little background on the fluorescent bulb itself?
Absolutely. Matter of fact, in my research, basically the first fluorescent light that I could find in history was created about 1934 by a physicist in Great Britain. And the whole fluorescent lighting system spread quickly throughout the U.S. during the Second World War. By 1951, more light was produced in the U.S. by fluorescent light than by incandescent light for the first time.
Wow.
And so this has a long and storied history. And the reason that fluorescent lighting became so popular was because they use 1/4 the energy that an incandescent bulb uses, and they don't produce the heat that incandescent bulbs do, and they last 4 times longer than an incandescent bulb. So that made it was a trifecta of reasons why you wanted to use fluorescent lighting.
Yeah, no kidding. So with the modern lights, with the LEDs, are they just as bad, for instance, as a fluorescent? Is there studies done on those guys yet?
Well, it's funny you ask that, because it seems that the industry, because our government and marketers are really pushing LED lights right now. Yeah. Nobody seems to be in a tremendous hurry to look for anything negative about it. But I will tell you that I own a UV meter, and when I bring that UV meter up to an LED light source, yeah, there's UV. And think of this also. They have UV LEDs, blacklight, LEDs.
Yeah.
And they're 100% UV. So for them to make claims that there's no UV coming out of LEDs is sort of, I don't know. It's funny to me anyway.
Yeah, for sure. It's funny you say that with the blacklight. Right now, kind of a trend in the industry with glass is UV reactive glass. And when I started doing this 16 years ago, the UV glass was around, but it was more or less uranium that glass we were buying. It had a low level of radioactivity to it, but nonetheless, it was still available. And currently, a company, North Star Glass, has come up with this product that it's a color that glows amazingly in UV light. And I just myself purchased a pack of like 5 flashlights on Amazon last night that were LED UV blacklight flashlights. So it's
nice,
it's
very nice. Yeah, matter of fact, the old green glass, I think World War II era.
Yeah.
When you illuminate that with blacklight, boy, does it ever glow.
Yeah, the old Vaseline glass. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's interesting because I know like the city, like where I live here in Florida, they've really been proactive at cutting costs, lowering energy, lowering the lights, cutting out light pollution, and they've recently changed all the street lights to LED lights. Mm-hmm. And I mean, it's such a difference in that bright white light. But like when they first put them in, I noticed when it was foggy out, it actually made it more difficult to see. And they say don't drive with your high beams on when it's foggy, and they've more or less installed high beam lights on the frickin' streets.
You're exactly right. Matter of fact, that's a huge problem here in Corona, California, where I live. The city fathers replaced our former orange-colored streetlights with the new bluer colored streetlights, like you're describing, and because blue light scatters, it scatters all over the place. Matter of fact, most people don't know this, but blue light is unfocusable on the retina. And so what it does is it just scatters all over the retina and confuses the retina. And that's why, I've been working in ophthalmology now for about 38 years. And I will tell you that I've never had more complaints from my older patients, especially that have cataracts, that these newfangled blue headlights are so disabling, it keeps a lot of them off the road and driving at nighttime. Because, again, because it's not focusable on the retina, it is, it's actually reducing their visual acuity at night. So, between the blue street lights and the blue headlights, it's not a happy picture for a lot of people.
Yeah, it's interesting. And actually, just on a previous episode, part of my talk was about sleep, and there's a guy I listen to, and he talks about the blue lights on our laptops and iPads and everything else, and how our skin picks the photoreceptors in our skin. The receptors pick up that blue light, and companies have actually created apps now that you can get that somehow or other it turns off that blue light in your screen. So if you're on your computer, say at 10 o'clock at night, the blue light isn't affecting you for your hormonal levels in your body, thinking that it's daytime and that you should be awake at that time. It's kind of
right.
It's interesting.
Well, as a matter of fact, the skin, there are some photoreceptors in the skin, no doubt about it, because otherwise you probably wouldn't, get sunburns. But the real body effect that is occurring is happening through the eyes. Now, about 10, 15 years ago, scientists back in Pennsylvania located or actually discerned a new photoreceptor in the retina. Now, we all grew up with knowing about rods and cones. If you ever had, high school biology, mm-hmm. we knew about rods and cones. Well, cones take care of your day vision, your color vision, and your central vision for reading. Your rods take care of your black and white vision, peripheral vision, and night vision. Well, they found this novel photoreceptor in the retina about 10, 15 years ago called the IPRGC. And it's a retinal ganglion cell, and it's in the retina. It's not as numerous as the rods and cones, but they're all throughout the retina, and these visual cells have absolutely nothing to do with vision. All they do is they can tell whether it's daytime or nighttime, and they send a signal to the brain that says, okay, there's a little gland in the midbrain called the pineal gland. The pineal gland is the gland that's responsible for mediating how much serotonin and melatonin you have in your bloodstream. Okay, and so serotonin in your bloodstream, it's a hormone, and it makes you awake and alert and sharp. Melatonin makes you sleepy and drowsy. So that whole circadian rhythm that people talk about, your sleepy-wakey cycle, is actually mediated through the eyes. And so now there was actually a story this morning in the New York Times, and it's entitled High-Tech Lights to Help Babies Sleep or Students Stay Alert. And it's talking about how there are light bulb companies now that are pushing a more orange color of light for nighttime and a bluer color of light for daytime, so as to give you that, that good circadian rhythm where you're sleeping soundly and you're awake and alert when you should be.
Fascinating.
And I was teaching that probably 10, 12 years ago. I've been teaching it all along, that this is what's going on ever since we found out about that novel photoreceptor.
Huh. Man, that's interesting stuff. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. Huh.
You're welcome. So anyway, getting back to the fluorescent lighting, as good as they were at saving energy and not being as hot and lasting longer than incandescents, they had their issues. And the number one complaint is the glare that's emitted by fluorescent lighting. Secondly, the poor color rendering or color matching ability, and thirdly, ultraviolet radiation. Because if you understand how a bulb works, a fluorescent bulb, it's a glass tube that is coated on the inside with a mixture of different phosphors, different colored phosphors. And then they put a little bit of mercury, about as much as you can put on the head of a pin, inside this glass tube and seal it with an anode at one end and a cathode at the other. Basically what happens is this beam of electricity is blasting back and forth at 60 cycles, 60 times per second, and it vaporizes the mercury that's sealed in the bulb, and that in turn creates ultraviolet radiation, which in turn makes the phosphors fluoresce, hence fluorescent lighting. If you've ever had a white T-shirt on, for instance, and you go into a store that has like a black light area, and you have this white shirt on, and you practically glow. Yeah. And a part of that's because of the phosphors that are in our detergents that make your clothes white and glow and stuff. But again, that's the glowing part from the UV, because black lights are 100% UV as well. And so the goal is to, in daily life, is to take this better light source, being the fluorescence, and eliminating the glare, improving the color rendering to give you full spectrum light like natural outdoor sunlight, so you can accurately match clothing colors, and eliminate that UV that's causing everything from cataracts and skin cancers and premature aging and that type of thing.
Yeah, especially if you're sitting in an office all day and like the top of your head's being exposed to these lights alone, not to mention your eyes and everything else, so you're getting this direct effect from it.
Absolutely. Matter of fact, the folks with lupus will tell you that I call my lupus patients my UV barometers, okay, because they can tell you in short order if there's UV in any environment. Not every lupus patient has is affected by UV the same way, but the more systemic types of lupus can definitely tell if there is if there's UV. Now, lupus is it's not infectious, it's not rare, and it's not cancerous. And there's about 1.5 million to 2 million people in the U.S. alone with lupus erythematosus. And over 80% of the people that have lupus are women. And over 100,000 of them are children. So, statistically, lupus is more prevalent than sickle cell anemia, cerebral palsy, multiple sclerosis, and cystic fibrosis combined. Wow. Okay, so you're talking about your friend that has lupus. I'm in direct contact with the Lupus Foundation of America's headquarters in Washington, D.C., and they've referred a number of people over to us that have questions about UV and their fluorescent lighting and what can be done. So we have a real heart for the folks with lupus, and I've spoken at different lupus support group sites all over Southern California, and the heartbreaking stories you hear from the folks with lupus. There's one in particular. You mind if I go off on just one little story from a lupus patient?
Yeah,
for a
go
second?
for it. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so this lady comes up to me. She says, "Thank you so much for creating this product." And she said, I wish we could put them in grocery stores. I said, we'd love to put them in every grocery store. And I said, what happens when you go shopping? She said, well, first of all, because I have lupus, I can't go shopping during the daytime because under the sunlight, the UV just kills me. And she said, so my daughter and I go shopping at night. And we were in this grocery store, and I know that I only have about a half an hour to do my grocery shopping before my body starts to cave in. So she said, it was a particularly heavy shopping day. And she said, we had a full basket of groceries, and all of a sudden, I just started to crumble. And she says, my daughter literally had to pick me up in the aisle and carry me out to my car. And she said, we left a full basket of groceries right there in the aisle because my body was done. And that happens all the time with patients with lupus.
That's terrible.
So, that's just, because you get with lupus, you can have transient joint and muscle pain and fatigue, skin rash, hair loss, loss of appetite, sores in the mouth and nose, and painful sensitivity of the fingers to cold. So, and actually, when it comes to UV sensitivity, there are over 150 commonly prescribed medications that actually make you photosensitive to UV. And I'm talking about everything from, that the cute little pink St. Joseph's aspirin for children.
Yep.
Okay, that can make you UV sensitive. Because it's coal tar based, and it's the coal tar that, without getting too technical, but coal tar gets throughout your body in a quick hurry, which is why they put it in medications, because they need it to go to all parts of the body. And it's the coal tar that makes us UV sensitive. So.
Oh, yeah, I know, like when I use hydrocortisone cream, it does the same thing. Like my doctor says, don't go out in the sun for at least, the half the day, let it absorb in your skin first.
Exactly right, and that's why, when you see a label on your medication that your doctor's prescribed, it will say avoid sunlight, and now they say avoid sunlight and artificial sunlight. Well, artificial sunlight, yeah, that's fluorescent lighting as well.
Huh. So at one point in time, did you decide that it was time to do something about this and create your product that you got now?
Well, because of it was the number one complaint we got in the eye clinic for many, many years. And so much so that again, they try to do something with tints in your glasses. Mm-hmm. You'd have to wear goggles, okay? But even then, the UV is not going to be stopped just because you have it, in your glasses. What about the rest of your body being exposed?
Yeah.
And what about people that don't wear glasses that don't have a tint to put in their glasses? So that's why I just said, what, we need to put that plastic pebble-looking lens or filter that's up in the ceiling. We need to tint that, and what I did was I took the pink and the blue and combined them, okay, and that gave us sort of a purplish color. And as it turns out, it's that very color that eliminates the high yellow and green that you normally have in cool white fluorescent lighting, and it pushed the yellow and green wavelengths down so that it was flatter and you had a more full spectrum of light.
Interesting. So, like the glasses that we wear in the studio, it has didinium in it, the lens,
yes.
I guess, whatever. And I know, like the ones that are not shaded, we call them rose shade because they do have that pink tint to it, kind of tone.
That's right.
But then once you add a shade to it, then the shade's usually like a green tint. But then it definitely starts to get into the more of the pinks and the blues, or even like you're saying, like that purple tint that you get.
Right, exactly. And so by having the tint, it eliminates the problems that you had before. And with the UV absorbing, you take a light source, and no matter how good they make the bulbs, we can still improve it with our dye stuffs and our UV absorber. So looking at one of the biggest problems that we have in the eye clinic is something that they've now dubbed computer vision syndrome. Okay. And computer vision syndrome is defined as a complex of eye and vision problems related to near work, which are experienced during or related to computer use. And these symptoms include headaches, blurred vision, neck pain, fatigue, eye strain, dry, irritated eyes, and difficulty refocusing the eyes. I hear this all day long from patients. And the thing is that we would put a new pair of glasses on you, and it would take care of the problems temporarily. But in about 6-8 months, the patient comes back and says, when these glasses were new, they were working great, but I'm still having the problems now. And it's because we took care of the symptoms, but we didn't take care of the problem.
Yeah, exactly.
And with the Naturalux filters, we take care of the problem. So, if you look at the number of people that this affects, the majority of computer users, and we're talking about, in most studies, they indicate between 50 and 90% of people who use computers complain of those very symptoms I just enumerated, far outstripping what people complain as far as musculoskeletal disorders like carpal tunnel syndrome and bursitis and muscle strains. And even NIOSH did a study that indicated that only 22% of computer users suffer from those problems, as opposed to the 50 to 90% that are having eye problems.
Huh, that's interesting. I can't imagine the epidemic, per se, we're going to have because of the small smartphones and the iPads and stuff. I know there was a doctor that actually created an app that, because of the phones have the balancing technology to them, that
Yes.
Once the phone is at a certain level, it starts to ding at you to let you know that your posture is off, that you need to stand up and look straight ahead.
Yes.
Which is smart. I guess the guy's a chiropractor or something. But the same thing, like with eye strain, because I have a small stigmatism, so I know, like, after a couple hours of using my phone or my iPad or my computer even, it killed, I get headaches, just from it alone, and it makes total sense now.
Absolutely. When if you look at our website, basically we have testimonials that the customers have sent us. That we haven't asked them to. They just sent us some testimonials, and some of these things are like really just life changing. This one here, I'll just read one to you from somebody in Iowa. It says, I work in an office that's approximately 170 square feet with high ceilings. I have 5 traditional 2x4 fluorescent lighting fixtures. My eyes are very sensitive to glare and bright light. By installing the Naturalux filters along with true color bulbs and parabolic lenses, my office is completely changed. I went from wearing sunglasses indoors and straining to see documents and my computer screen to a very comfortable office setting. Clients do not notice a difference in the level of light or any odd color in my office, and the glare is a thing of the past. I'm a very satisfied customer. So we get these things, from customers all the time.
Yeah, that's fascinating. Have you had them in hospitals and stuff like that?
Yes, matter of fact, we have a users list also on the website. We have, a lot of customers in education, colleges, universities, elementary schools, energy companies, the entertainment and communications industry, the finance and tech sector, a lot of government buildings, healthcare, hospitals, doctors' offices, dental offices, manufacturing. Matter of fact, our biggest customer to date has been a little chain of department stores called Nordstrom's.
Yeah.
And Nordstrom's at one point mandated from their headquarters in Seattle that all new stores that they built had to have our Naturalux filters in the changing rooms so that their customers could accurately match their clothing colors. Because if you've ever tried to search for a tie that was the same color as a jacket or whatever, and then you get it home, it looks perfect in the store, but you get it home and it's an entirely different color.
Yeah.
Well, and you go, what happened here?
I know. It reminds me the other day I was looking for a new pair of black pants, and I kept walking around and looking at them. I'm like, God, are these navy blue or are these black? The lighting was terrible, and I couldn't tell. So I had to pull my my belt out and match it to my belt to make sure it was black and not navy blue.
Exactly, and that's the thing. People that work in color-sensitive industries, like electricians have to know what color a certain wire is, and you imagine the things that can happen if you get the wrong wire hooked up to something.
Goodness.
And so that's a real issue. And another one is in the field of education. We've had probably more play in education for customers than any other sector.
Wow.
And the thing is that we installed our filters in an elementary school down in San Diego, North San Diego County, and about 2 weeks after the install, the principal contacted us and said, I don't know what kind of magic dust you put in these filters, but she said ever since we put them in our classrooms, we've had a 60% decrease in behavioral problems in the classroom. And I said, how do you know that? She says, because ever since we opened the school up a couple years ago, we have our teachers turn in slips at the end of the week with problems that they're having with certain students. And she said, the teachers, these slips are down by 60%. And she said the teachers are letting us know that they have far more time to spend teaching their students than trying to quiet them down like after recess. She said it used to take anywhere from 15 to 20 minutes to calm them down after lunch or recess. She said it's down to 3 to 5 minutes now. And she says, do you have any idea how much that extra instructional time means to our teachers? She says, you guys are great. So that's just one story. But we've had special ed teachers that deal with students that have an autism syndrome. Okay, a spectrum of problems related to autism. And this one teacher said that was in charge of the autism program. She said, they want to take my filters out of my classroom. And she said, I told them that over my dead body, they're going to take this out of my classroom. She says, I've had such great results, with my students ever since we put these in the classroom. So, again, when we started out doing this, I had no concept of where it would go. And, the fact of the matter is that the name of our company is Inspired Concepts, because it wasn't me. It was inspired by our God, okay, for it to help His people. And the truth of the matter is that when we put the UV absorber in our product, initially it was to keep the colors from fading. Well, as it turns out, it just so happens that everybody who's under the fluorescent lighting now isn't exposed to UV anymore.
Yeah,
okay,
makes sense.
That wasn't by design. That was by, divine intervention, really.
Yeah.
And so, anyway, we're constantly gratified by the people that get back in touch with us after they have used our filters and want to reorder more because they're changing jobs or something else is somebody else's. We've actually had people take them out of one room and put them in their own rooms, and that was they put them in apparently a conference room in San Bernardino, California, and all of a sudden they went in for a meeting and the filters were gone, and so they put on a full-on search throughout the building to find out who absconded with those and where they put them. So,
that's interesting. So the filter itself, is it like a cover that goes on there, or is it a tint like film that you apply?
Okay, so we have two different types of Naturalux filters. One is a flat sheet. It's a very thin film, and what it does is it has all the color pigments in it that we need to change the light to make it full spectrum, and color correct the light and color balance the light. And it also has the UV absorber, and we actually have it extruded with all of that material in it. And then that thin film sits on top of your existing plastic lens or on top of one of those silvered louvers that looks sort of like a big ice cube tray up in the ceiling. Mm-hmm. They sit right on top of it, and it filters all the light that passes through it. Now, if you have a fixture that doesn't have the lens or louver, it's just an open troffer, they call it, like a shop light. Yeah. We have the tube guard sleeves. And what you do is you would take the bulb out of the fixture, you'd slide it into our plastic tube guard sleeve, and there's an end cap at either end that seals it, and then you spin it back up into the fixture, and your light's being filtered from that point on.
Man, that's genius. Fantastic. I work at Disney part-time. I was full-time, but we do demonstrations in front of our guests. And on three sides of us, we have glass walls up, for protection of glass shards and whatever in the heat. Mm-hmm. But part of the concern that they've always had is the fact that some guests, not all of them, but like to stand and watch an entire demo. And usually they don't just sit there and stare at you, but it still can affect you if you're there for an extended period of time watching someone blowing glass on a torch. Mm-hmm. And so they've been researching themselves for some sort of product that they could use like a film tint to cover and be applied to the glass encasement around us. And something like this sounds like it's exactly what we need. Now, if that was to be used, now again, like we use dinium in our glasses. Does it have the same effect? Like, does it help to filter out sulfur flare, for instance, or any of that kind of stuff, or is it mostly just specifically for UV and UVB?
Well, actually, we've never studied that. That would be interesting to find out. I do know that the UV absorber that we put in is a material that is used in many other plastic products, and what it does is it absorbs the UV and it actually converts it into heat. Okay, and then that's dissipated. Well, they don't put out a lot. The fluorescent lights don't put out a lot of heat anyway,
right.
And so that's not an issue. But no, we've not really studied it for anything other than that. Again, the whole goal of the Naturalux filters is to take care of the three biggest problems that are related to fluorescent lighting, which is it eliminates the glare that causes the headaches and eye strain. It absorbs that UV energy and makes it a UV safe environment for folks. And also it color corrects the light so that you can accurately match colors and such. And the thing about UV is this: people don't realize this, but that UV has an aggregate effect on your body. Remember that first sunburn you got as a small child? That UV is still actually in effect in your body to this day. Now your DNA, because it affects your very DNA strands. Now, while the DNA, has the ability to recuperate and repair itself to some degree, it doesn't completely repair, which is why you get things like skin cancers and other health issues, premature wrinkling and whatnot. And so it's not only causing, health problems, but also, have you ever noticed that you've had, let's say, a white plastic whatever in your office, and over time, it gets yellow.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it's breaking down the actual monomers of the plastic, and so it's affecting you whether you know it or not. And it's at the grocery store, it's at the bank, it's at it's at the doctor's office, it's everywhere you go, and over time you're getting more and more UV, and the more UV you submit your body to, the greater problems you have later in life.
Yeah, I remember when we first had talked last week, we were saying, you're saying how when the cigarette manufacturers started making cigarettes, they didn't think about the cancer that it was going to cause. And it seems like the same thing now with the fluorescent companies that are manufacturing these bulbs. They didn't really think about the potential harmful side effects that their lights were going to make. Even though, in the long run, they're going to save you money and blah, blah, blah. But really, they're going to cost us more money because we have to now go to dermatologists and have precancer cells removed, or potentially, spend half of our life in a hospital with hospital bills. So it's kind of contradicting,
yeah. And that's what. And the other thing is, you have other unintended consequences. For instance, some of our bigger users are also museums and libraries.
Oh yeah.
Okay, because it's going to fade not only the books and the and the artwork, some of which are totally irreplaceable. And it fades. If you walk into an old library, for instance, that has had a long history of fluorescent lighting, you look at the spines on the books, and they're all faded. Well, they can say all day long that there's no UV in fluorescent lighting, but the facts speak for themselves. Yeah, they're filled with fluorescent lighting.
Huh. We went to the Dali Museum last weekend, and the guy that was doing the tour had a little handheld flashlight because some of Dali's master paintings are 15 feet tall, they're gigantic. Mm-hmm. And he was using this little light flashlight, kind of a pink tint to it, and I'm wondering now if that was actually like a UV light he's shining at these masters of Dali.
Exactly. Well, in some UV absorbers, like they use in clean rooms, and they're working on printed circuit boards, they'll actually go to the far extreme and eliminate not only the UV but even the near blue visible light, because it also has an oxidizing effect. Or can have an oxidizing effect, and so you'll see yellow lights that takes care of all the UV and the near blue as well.
Man, that's crazy. So, I guess in terms of the eyes itself, does the fluorescent lighting help to kind of activate or start up or give you cataract and potential retina issues and that kind of stuff?
Okay, so with regard to UV and the retina, we know that there's age-related macular degeneration, and that is studies have shown that UV definitely plays a part in accelerating that. Macular degeneration is a disease that affects your central vision. to the degree that patients with advanced, it's called AMD, the macular degeneration can take out your ability to read. And, so many patients over the years have said, if I could just read my Bible, if I could just read a map, if I could just, but because, there's no cure for macular degeneration. And so all we can do is to try and mitigate as much of the effect of the UV on the retina as possible. That's what we do. And we know also that cataracts, early cataract formation is related to advanced absorption of UV in your lens that you're born with. It can cause, burns. You can actually get corneal burns from UV as well. So there's all sorts of things that the UV affects, and people are just waking up to that over the last probably 10 years, and we've been at the forefront of letting people know, hey, you need to protect yourself and your children and your grandchildren.
Yeah, absolutely, I agree. And now, so as a torch worker, like again, we wear our specialized glasses. But like when my brother was first starting with me, he had a bad habit of looking over the top of his glasses, and I think it was because the lens he was using was a darker shade than what he should have been wearing, which I think is what we kind of came to the conclusion. But I think it was probably just a week of him doing that, he ended up building up a calcium deposit. Kind of his eyes started creating like a calcium extraction, in a sense, or we don't call it, in his eyes, and he had to use eye drops for it, and we start from that point in time, and again, this is about 5 years ago, and I've been doing this for 16 years, so it really woke me up to the importance of having proper eye protection, the right shade, depending on what you're working, because like if we're working clear glass, the clear glass isn't always as bright as, say, colored glass, like a black or a blue or something that really holds in that brightness of the the glass when it's hot. So I know, like a lot of companies that manufacture torches and other equipment, they're now making a shield you can get that goes in front of your torch or on the back of it to help that you look through with your glasses for that extra protection. So in terms of the UV light, and the flame itself and the brightness of the flame, do you have any recommendations on, besides the proper eyewear, like to help keep your eyes, in good check, besides, taking breaks or, anything like that?
Well, actually, you just bringing this up to me now gives me a whole new adventure in research, because I don't know enough about the actual effect of flame, and I know that there's, we've known forever that glass blowers have a much higher rate of early cataract formation but we've always assumed it was from the radiant energy, the heat, that caused those cataracts. But I don't know that maybe there's a component of UV in that as well. And so what I'll do is I will, for you and your listeners, I will be happy to do some research on that topic. I do know this, that we've had patients over the years that are welders, okay? Right. And some of them just sort of poo-poo the whole idea of putting goggles on. I'm just going to do this for a second. It's not going to take long, and it's not going to affect me. Well, they end up in the eye clinic with scorched corneas from the UV energy from those, that welding apparatus. And just to give them a drop of a topical anesthetic, they would do anything for you just to relieve the intense pain of the cornea, because the cornea is chock full of pain sensors, nerves, and you feel every one of those nerves in your cornea when you have exposed them to UV like that. And so it would not surprise me that there is a UV component in what you folks are doing with the torches, and I will look that up and I'll get back to you on that.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic, because I know we do deal with potential skin cancer issues. I always preach about wearing really good, as natural as possible sunscreen to protect from the potential skin cancer risk that we have from it, especially on our hands and face, and the brightness of it. So yeah, definitely would
absolutely,
because it's the same type of thing. Like most welders, they have a specific shade that they wear, like the dark shades. Ours are a shade 3, it's called, so it's not quite as dark as a welder shade. If we wore welder shades, it'd be too dark to see through. We'd have eye strain, etc.
Exactly. Exactly, and they are too dark for what you're doing.
Yeah.
But goggles, definitely the order of the day. A good UV absorbing is never going to be a bad thing. You want to absorb 100% of the UV to 400 nanometers. 400 nanometers, light and UV is measured in nanometers, and so 400 to 700 is visible light. And as far as the UV it starts at 100 nanometers. That's UVC, and then UVB starts at 280, and UVA starts at 320 nanometers. So anything that is going to absorb there's usually no UVC from our lighting. Okay, that's all absorbed by the glass of the light bulb itself. But UVB goes from 280 to 320 nanometers, and UVA goes from 320 to 400. So anything that absorbs in that range from, let's say, 280 to 400, that's what your people want to be putting in all in their glasses all day long, whether it's for what you're doing or even going outdoors and playing volleyball. Okay, and as far as UV protection, there's actually there is. Do you know the company RIT? RIT? They make. No. Okay, RIT has made for many years different dye stuffs. Let's say you have faded jeans.
Yep,
okay,
absolutely. I'm familiar. Yep.
Okay, so RIT has come out with a product called RIT Sun Guard, and RIT Sun Guard is something that you put in with your laundry, and it actually it's a UV protector that goes into your natural clothing. You don't have to buy special clothes that are UV absorbing or repelling. This RIT Sun Guard does the job with anything you want to wear.
Oh, that's smart.
So that's what a lot of lupus patients use, and the more people find out about it, the more excited they are.
Yeah, that's the first I've heard about that. Yeah, I've actually used RIT dye in the past for trying tie-dye in shirts and stuff.
Oh, yes. Well, yeah, we did that back in the 70s when, dinosaurs ruled the earth.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, yeah, it's there's a number of things you can do. The main thing is if you have exposed skin, you want to either use a high SPF, and there's some controversy about, the different sun protecting lotions that they have out there. But do your homework and come up with the best one that you feel comfortable with, and protect yourself.
Yeah. I went and saw a dermatologist about a month ago, and we talked about that. And the just the basic zinc oxides was what she recommended. She's like, if you can't read what it says on the bottle, don't buy it because of the amount of crap that's out there.
That's so true. That's very true. And zinc oxide is a proven solution. Yeah. So it may look a little funny, but and you might you go into one of those black light scenarios that we talked about earlier. Your nose would be, if you had it on your nose like they usually do on the beach, it would definitely glow for you.
Yeah, we could all be lifeguards in our studios.
That's right. Down under. Very true. Very true.
Awesome, Kevin. Man, I really appreciate all this insight. And before we get going here, could you give us kind of a basic summary of everything and how we can get a hold of you also out there in cyberspace?
Okay, that's great. I appreciate the opportunity, and thanks for having me on today. I really appreciate the opportunity to let people know that something that they've probably been looking for and wondering if there was a solution to a problem actually exists. And if your listeners have had a problem with headaches and eye strain, problems with UV, as far as creating health issues, or if they just want to be able to match a pair of socks that come out of the dryer, Naturalux filters are the answer. And we're actually working right now on trying to develop a version for the compact fluorescent light bulbs, the one that look like look like the ice cream cones, the swirly ones, so that we can protect those as well. And as it turns out, our filters work equally well with the new LED lights as well, because they're based on the same sort of technology. So even LED lights or fluorescent lights, the Naturalux filters work with all of them now. And so if you want to read, if your listeners want to read up on us, you can find our website at www.naturalux.com. That's NATURALUX.com. Lux being light, and it's natural. So it's naturalux.com.
Fantastic, man. Again, I appreciate it all, and I look forward to bringing you back on and talking about the harmful effects of the torch that we talk about, and how we can further protect ourselves, because I know myself, I want to be doing this until the day I die, so ideally my eyes are the most important tool that I have besides my hands, and definitely want to be able to do this for a long time, and plus I want to be able to see when I'm not working.
Absolutely, and we want to give you the best health while you're doing what you're doing.
Fantastic, man. Well, thanks again, sir, and we will be in touch soon.
Jason, thank you so much, and we'll talk to you soon.
Awesome. Take care.
Now it's time to share some glass knowledge with your host, J.Michael, and the creator of At Glass Knowledge on Instagram, Shane Penn.
What's going on, Shane?
Not much. How's it going, Jason?
Pretty good, brother.
I'm Shane. I'm running the Glass Knowledge page on Instagram at Glass Knowledge, one word. I've been a third-party electroformer for 3 years who just got the idea from Eric Enders to maybe start something to help educate the community. So I figured let's bring that to the people in any format possible. So here we are. We're going to be covering, if you go to the page, you'll see many topics covered, such as borosilicate, wrap and rake, filicello, and everything in between. So we're going to be covering different colors, different styles, different perks, why things work, anything that a consumer or even an artist might want to know about the glass industry, we are going to be covering over time. So that's kind of the plan.
Heck yeah, I'm excited. And you can hear Shane's episode entirely on episode 25. And he drops a lot of knowledge on there, but also gives like a really good background on everything he's involved with and why he feels he's fits this role here. And I'm excited to be doing this, man, because I could sit here and talk about glass all day, but to have a second person with me and really getting into the nitty-gritty of specific techniques and details, and then we can expand upon it. And anybody out there listening that wants to give us feedback on these as well, you're welcome to, whether it's posting on the Glass Knowledge page, you can post at my at @JMichael Glass Instagram page, you can send us emails, what have you. All the links are on the podcast page on iTunes or Stitcher.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's one of the biggest parts of our page right now, and the biggest idea is that with community involvement, any incorrect information can be instantly corrected. It's not about being right or wrong. It's about being humble enough to be able to just correct information when it gets out there. So, I've had a lot of people already say, like, the reason we're following you already is just because you're willing to instantly fix any misinformation, and realistically all of it's coming from online sources and talking to different artists, and it's all about how reluctant people are willing to share. And as a slightly secret community, I feel there's a lot of history of just keeping secrets safe, that it's starting time to open up that can of worms as we expand outwards. So yeah. I think the more people get involved, the better our information gets, and the more information we can get out to the people. And I mean, that increases everything from value of glass to the demand for better glass. So that's our goal.
Yeah, man. And speaking of the hidden secrets of glass, in a sense, back in the Murano Venetian days, the glass artists there were considered royalty, and their daughters would be married off into the kings and queens and princesses and whatever, into the royalty of the countries there around them. But the guys were never allowed to leave the island, and if they were, they had to die more or less. And I heard some folklore that back then, if you wanted to leave, they actually would take a shard of glass and shove it into your sternum area, kind of going towards your heart, so that if you ever went to any other studio space, anywhere that you dealt with a furnace and the heat, that shard of glass would eventually go to your heart and would kill you. So,
wow.
Yeah.
I've never heard that folklore, but I have heard and read online in a few different places where the trades were so secret back in Murano, Italy. If you were found to have gone to another group and sold away secrets, or any of your studio's techniques or anything like that, there were many assassins, and there were many they would buy your head basically, and they would pay for you to be killed. Or the same thing would happen if let's say one studio figured out another studio's thing just by chance. There was a chance that the new people would be just eliminated completely, just to keep those family secrets in the family. It was almost like glass mafia.
Yeah, man. Imagine that now with people that are quote unquote biting other artists' glass. People start showing up dead all over the country.
Man, that would be rough. There's always room for there's always room for growth and new styles and whatnot. But you can only. It's never good to be taking another artist's style either completely. Like you need to make it your own. Like it's fine if you're doing bubble trap, but if you're making exact replicas of Steve Sizelove, like there's gonna be people who are gonna be pissed at you. And I think that reflects on a lot of artists as well. Like the consumers know, like people are aware if you are completely taking someone else's ideas. As an electroformer, for example, I never use nuts and bolts on things because I don't want to make Snick ripoffs.
Yeah.
And that's a very conscious choice. It's a super easy thing to use. It's a pretty neat thing to use with a cool design to it. But it's not mine. I didn't get to it first, so I gotta figure out my own niche.
Gotta stay original.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the fun of it too. Like. Who just wants to paint Starry Night every single day? Like, why not?
Heck yeah. Hell yeah. So to get into this episode, we are going to be discussing the base and foundation of what all pipes, well, I can't say all pipes, I'd say 95% of pipes are made of, and that is borosilicate glass, the raw material, the clear that we use, including the color as well. And you guys dug up some pretty interesting information on it, and there's a lot of different variations out there now, not in just companies that are selling it, but also in terms of branding of, like, there's borosilicate, which is the original composition formula that was created when that glass was made. And then there's Schott and Duran and Cymax, and supposedly they all have their own not supposedly, but they all have their own slight little variation in the formula. And another one of those, folklore stories is that supposedly the guy that invented and created the real true recipe for borosilicate, when he passed it on, he left one ingredient out, and then he passed away with the secrets. So
really, I've never heard that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so I don't know if that's true or not. It's just everything on the internet is true, so I believe it all. So you never know.
I read that on the internet too, that everything on the internet is true.
Yeah, every one of it.
But
yeah.
I mean, as far as I understand, if you go from a basic chemical background, it's borosilicate is boroxide and silicate dioxide, or borodioxide and silicate oxide, which is just more or less like sand and boroxide, which is just a oxidated compound. Yeah. And it's the different mixtures between that would create different hardness glass and slightly varying COEs, and of course every company is going to say theirs is a little bit different, and in the end it's it's apples and oranges, I think. And I think only people that working with it can tell. I know you've worked with glass forever. Can you tell the difference between a China rod and like a Stoke, was that Stolm or Stokes?
Yeah. Actually, if I show when I teach people this, I show them the difference, because you can actually see it visibly before you actually use it. If you take a tube or a rod of glass and you hold it and look at the bottom where the cut is, and it has to be a cut, more or less. If it's polished, it's not as easy to tell, but you can hold up Cymax and China next to each other. The China glass has an actual green tone to it, and where the Cymax and the higher quality glasses have more of a blue tone to it. And supposedly the bluer the tone, the clearer the quality of the glass. And if you think about glaciers and icebergs, and you see them, they're like this brilliant blue color. And that's because the water purities and that are in there are so pure, it has this amazing, gorgeous blue to it. So supposedly, from what I understand, the glass runs more or less the same way. Water is a very weird, permeable, crazy, effed up chemistry. Glass is the same way, to go from a liquid to solid to back to liquid to solid, and it can also vaporize. Glass can vaporize, and oxide into the air. It won't disappear, but the chemical composition breaks down over a period of time. You get into devitrification, where it's actually like on the molecular level of the glass, it's more or less you've killed the molecules, and the glass is just like, okay, I'm done. But
that's when you get pieces just exploding or shattering, correct?
Well, you also will have, for instance, I just recently had worked on a custom piece, and the one section I had sat in my kiln for like 4 or 5 cycles. And the more you do that, it's heating the glass, cooling it down, heating up, cooling it down, and it's in there for all freaking day. And eventually it got to a point where it got a little bit of scuzz on the surface, where the actual surface began to eat up and just kind of go to shit. And I went and tried to clear it off, and the more I tried to clear it off, the worse it made that entire section. And I thought back to, I was like, damn, this thing's actually gone through like 5 or 6 kiln cycles. Actually, it was probably even more than that. So it's actual like a molecular composition breakdown of the glass, where the glass is pretty much dead. It's kind of an interesting thing, because the glass will fog up on you, and that's just from the surface of the glass cooling off before the core cools off. So like it just makes the skin, and it's just kind of it's a weird thing. But you can fire polish that, and it goes away. Because a lot of times when you're dealing with borosilicate in general, one of the most difficult things, especially for marble makers, is to keep their core hot. Once you lose your core temperature, it's really difficult. It takes a long time to get the entire piece hot again. As long as your core is hot, you can continue to keep the outside just the same temperature, which makes it easy to make the entire piece pliable and move it and spin it and twist it and what have you. Once your core just is cold, just the outside layer, if you think about the way the sun is or the earth, it's the same kind of idea. And but the DVIT, again, is just complete shit breakdown. But like the China glass, and I'm not sure if anybody out there knows the answer for this, it seems like when they ship it over, they actually have some kind of wax coating that they put on there. And I don't know if that is to help with scratches and what have you when it's shipped, but it's not good at all for doing any kind of lens encasements, any kind of clarity, because you get like a weird scuzz on it. And I haven't found anything that you can do to get rid of that scuzz. It's really interesting. So if anybody out there knows about that, definitely hit us up. I'd like to know.
I mean, I have a few buddies, a few glassblower buddies who've been working in the industry for a while, and when it comes to even like borosilicate fixtures, like scientific fixtures, like they always go Schott, because they just like have had such terrible luck with the China ones, like exploding and cracking. Mm-hmm. And I think because there's a lot less factory. There's a lot less factory protocol in China, and they're not pumping out a quality product. There's not standards that are being met. It's about quantity and over quality, and they want to be able to reach as many people for as cheap as possible versus these higher brands like out of Germany that have been around for like hundreds of years. Even Corning, was producing glass for such a long time, mm-hmm. where there was much more about a quality standard, which in the long run, like, your glass is going to be better if you're using better glass. It makes sense,
Yeah.
You can tell the artists that are using better glass to make their glass.
Yeah. So kind of a fun thing too, for those out there that deal with borosilicate, and those that don't deal with it, this is going to be fun for you guys too, because you'll get to listen to us and kind of get some inside knowledge on why glass works the way it works. And starting with the borosilicate, going back to also to the China stuff, the color differentiation. Now, when I started 12 years ago, we had like maybe 6 or 7 colors, and they were just starting to get into the amber purple, but the color had to be figured out in a formula, because the soft glass, the Moretti, what have you, has been around for 200-300 years, so through the time they've actually really gotten that formula down, because of the different opacity and the thicknesses and the consistencies are different than clear. They move different, but they also have to have this very similar properties so that they can adhere and stay together. The glass has what's called a coefficient, which basically represents the cooling and heating rate of the glass. So like borosilicate's at 33, where your soft glass is like in the 90s to the hundreds, and that's because the different cooling rates, you know what I mean? And like you can't attach soft glass or Moretti to boro. I've tried it. Like I've coated a marble, a Pyrex marble in soft glass, and the entire outside completely shattered like spiderwebbed afterwards. It was really crazy.
Well, that's why COE is like, what is it? Coefficient of expansion.
Yeah.
Which means that as the glass heats or cools, it expands and gets smaller. Just like everything. Like if you heat something up, it gets bigger. If it cools down, it gets smaller. Yep. So if you have two things that are, these amorphous solids, which means they're like, they're very malleable solids that are cooling at different rates, one's going to get harder than the other. That's why a lot of things can't be encased, though, like in borosilicate. That's why you can't encase like certain stones and things like that. It's because if the COE is so much higher and lower that the stone is cooling too fast and will shatter whatever's encasing it.
It's also moisture content as well. Like the original, like the real opals, a lot of them are too wet, and they actually will explode inside the glass.
Yeah, absolutely. The big thing with what I found with the COE is, like, to help anyone who doesn't know, so soft glass refers to anything that's can melt at a much lower temperature, while borosilicate is much more heat resistant, so it has a lower COE, so you need a lot more heat in order to melt it and make it amorphous. So soft glass has always been used because it's, back in the olden days of Murano, Italy, and all this, like, in the past, they haven't had the ability to have these crazy oxidized flames that can get up to this high temperature heat. So it just made sense to make this soda lime glass, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was like most popular.
Yeah. Yeah, and the glass, the melting points are definitely different. Like for most soft glass, or the Moretti is a variation of the soft glass rods that are used for sculpture and what have you, little figures and beads. That's around 850 to 900 degrees, where the melting point, where the molecular structure actually becomes hyperactive in a sense, because glass is, in a sense, is always active. It's just at a resting point because it's at a cold temperature. But once it gets to the melting point where it becomes active, it's around 850 to 9, where borosilicate is 1050. And, the flames are around 3,000 to 4,000 degrees. So when the glass is actually, when borosilicate is liquid form, it's around 3,500 to 4,000 degrees. And this you don't want to mess around with it. And it doesn't feel good. But that being said, it definitely has a way higher melting temperature point. And with the color, to have color be compatible, the color has to have this very, very, very similar cooling rate. I'm pretty sure most color now is fine-tuned to where it's almost exactly the same as borosilicate. But when I first started, like green was, there was a jade green that was going around, and it was like, green for one is, I guess whatever chemistry it takes to create that color in glass, it's not very easy to do. And I remember doing perfume bottles and some different beads even that we were making for the Renaissance Festival, where I would do like a nice color wrap around the glass, and the next day, running a nice perfect annealing cycle, you can actually see where the glass, the green, had on both sides of the stripe in a spiral were cracked all the way around both sides of the green, and it left a texture on the surface where you can actually rub your hand across it and feel that green was actually separating itself from the clear after even running a perfect annealing cycle. So it's interesting.
I've heard very similar stories with like uranium color. The fact that like the uranium glass that came out of Corning in the 1960s it was made for like tungsten seals between like the borosilicate and tungsten. So like the COE is in between them. I think it's like around 39 to 40ish. And one of the things that if you don't like encase it between two layers of clear, it will literally like try and peel itself away from the clear just because it's not encased right. So you have to like put you have to have it sandwiched and sealed between two pieces for it to even stick. So that COE becomes really important. For how the color is made, though, is it's different metal oxides and different like metal influences that are like put into the glass itself during the process. And while we have these bigger companies now like Glass Alchemy and North Star Glass, and the list goes on and on. Back in the day, if you wanted color glass, you would have a crucible in your studio, and you'd be mixing the shit yourself.
Yeah.
And it, the fact that it's become kind of standard, and that these companies can do these huge batches of it outside of like the scientific industry, has allowed for like a huge influx in new colors, and they're allowed to push themselves experimentally to like find new colors. I mean, there's new color coming out every day. It feels like, and they're always trying to make it bigger and better and more hype on each color, I feel. But it's essential. Like the more drive that the artists have for more colors, the bigger the palette's going to grow. And along with, as long as there's competing companies, they're always going to be trying to one up one another, that's good for the glass business. It may not be good for them, but it's good for us.
Yeah, for sure. And to go back to the clear, what's interesting too, why the borosilicate or the Pyrex really started for scientific application, and the reason that is because the fact that it can withstand going from hot to cold, cold to hot, back and forth temperature differences, because they use Bunsen burners for expansion of gas and what have you, but also because it's non-porous, where soft glass specifically is a porous material. So the Pyrex is nice because it doesn't hold bacteria. It also allows you to get a 100% clean. So in scientific application, you're not mixing chemicals or have any kind of variation of anything in there whatsoever. It could be completely sterilized 100%. So that's kind of a fun little thing. When you get into sex toys, most of the sex toys are made out of borosilicate because of the fact that you can warm them up, you can throw them in the fridge, but also because they don't hold bacteria and you can clean them completely. Interesting, right?
Doesn't that make them dishwasher friendly as well, then?
Yeah, it does. Yep. Yeah, there's actually, I've got friends that make goblets and cups, and they say they're dishwasher friendly.
That's funny.
Because they're Boro. But yeah, it's interesting.
Boro sex toy. Yeah, throw that thing in the dishwasher. Make sure that thing's clean.
Yeah, exactly. Just do it when the kids aren't around.
But anyway, so I mean, I think a thing we should talk about then is why was borosilicate the chosen adopted glass for the functional pipe industry? Then, like, I think that's a good idea to go into now.
Yeah, for sure. Well, from kind of my perspective, I guess, because again, going into the fact that you can, to light your tobacco or whichever state you're listening to this in that you would use it for. It allows the glass is able to withstand the heat of a lighter to heat your substance, your herbs, to ingest, and then also it allows the glass, it then cools down quickly. It also, the glass does not, heat does not move through the glass at all. It stays specifically in the area that is being heated up, which is why glass is used in like electricity and stuff as well, because the heat stays specifically in just the one area that's being heated, doesn't transfer whatever. So with that being said, for the pipes, it was thought of as a really durable substance. It can be dropped for the most part, and survive. Where soft glass pieces, because of the annealing structure side of it, and also because of the chemical composition, the integrity of the piece is not as strong as it is in Pyrex. But that being said, if you have a pipe and you drop it and it bounces across your living room, or you go to a shop and the guy's like, "Hey, look at our indestructible pipes," and they're bouncing them off the floors and off the countertops, it's not going to break that time, but potentially weeks down the road, you could come home and your pipe could be in pieces. Once that glass makes impact, it sends a shock through the entire piece that completely makes the molecule structure active again, and it makes them very unhappy. So in theory, if you know a glass blower or know someone that has a kiln, you can just run it through an annealing cycle again, and it brings it back to brand new. But still, if you don't, your piece, because again, you're dealing with temperature changes that are pretty drastic. You're going from hundreds of degrees to zero within a matter of minutes, and that's part of the main reason we use them in pipes, because you can then have a ceremonial circle and pass it to your friend, and then they got a cold pipe.
For those out there, if you do drop a piece, and the first thing you should do is if you want to get it annealed or fixed, you need to first fix the thing. You need to clean it. You need to make sure that thing is spot clean, because you don't want that ever going through a kiln, and you don't want to also endanger if you're using it for illegal substance, you don't want to endanger the person trying to help you and fix your piece. And two, you need to be aware that if there's any spider cracks in there, even if it's not visible, the moment you put it into the kiln, there's a good chance it will spider web and the whole thing will pretty much explode.
Yeah.
I know our main glass blower for the store I worked at, he had to happen to a bunch of tubes where, that was what they had to do. He had to put it in the kiln to get it up to heat so he could be fixing it, and sure enough, the thing just exploded in the kiln. He now has an hour project of cleaning out 1,000-degree kiln full of your glass shards. So just be aware, even the smallest crack will grow and grow and grow. And I think a lot of my friends have always said it's not the first, if they drop a pipe, it's not the first bounce that scares them. It's the second bounce. It's the fact if they can't catch it on that first bounce, it's there's a good chance it will pop.
Yep. It's true, especially because a lot of houses nowadays have tile floors in them, and the tile floor is like the worst. I know in Florida, a lot of our houses here were made with terrazzo floors that were built into the concrete as a foundation-wise. So it's a pretty floor substance, but it is hard. And I've seen pipes that I've had jump off my lap and bounce, go boom, 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 shh. That fourth bounce,
Fourth bounce.
It just shatters all the shit. But again, you can anneal it, and it's good to go. But it's also why, when I do repairs and stuff, I tell whoever I'm repairing their work 100%. I said, this is not guaranteed, and I require payment up front, and this is not a non-refundable payment, because I might get your piece, and it might be an easy repair, but there's no guarantee that it's going to come out in the very end. There's never a guarantee.
Repairs is actually the best thing you can do for that is write up a waiver. And we found that is honestly if you have them sign a waiver, and you have it's the best way to save your ass if you're trying to do repairs on things. And even if just having them aware, we've had people try to come back and bite us in the ass and be like, "Oh, you broke it, man! It was already broken, but you exploded it. I could have repaired it myself better. Could have gotten glass glue or whatever." Shit, man! I want a brand new piece. I want a brand new blah blah blah. And they try to they try to pull you under the table. Mm-hmm. And having that piece of paper that you can pull out and be like, "Well, you signed this thing that said you were aware of it. That it said you are." In understanding that this may not work, that one, it's not getting any more fixed by you having it, and just sitting in your house just collecting dust, that we'll do our best, that here, we did our best, and, we're not going to charge you for the repair I think that was our thing, was we would not charge you for the repair if it didn't work. We tried our best, it exploded, we're all bummed, but you didn't lose anything but a broken piece of glass.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
So, it's up to use the store. But yeah, write up a waiver. It will save you so many headaches.
Absolutely. So, to continue on with the talk with the borosilicate, it's when you get into sculptural work in more of the solid field, one of the main reasons it's used for sculpture, more so now than what it used to be. A lot of times back, 50 years ago, maybe less than that, it was, a lot of soft glass Moretti sticks were used for sculpture for little figurines, where now the borosilicate is being used because of the fact that you can do a lot more delicate pieces. Like when I do my octopus tentacles are I pull them and stretch them out after I attach this glob of hot glass to the body of the octopus, and I'm able to really slowly just pull that glass out and actually feel it from experience, but feel it cooling down, so I know the heat base of the glass, and at one point in time, do I need to speed up my pull or slow down my pull? But you can get really, really fine details in it.
When you pull it, you can feel it harden along the way, so you can actually shape it slowly compared to the soft glass, which, is less rapid of a cooling rate, so you have to hold it or it's going to drip more. Gravity affects it more.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, absolutely. And what's interesting, too, going back to the molecule structure, borosilicate glass is stronger than the human bone, and also when it's in a fiber optic strand, it's also stronger than steel, which is crazy.
Really?
Yeah, but once you put the microest, finest, tiny little scratch in it, it completely destroys the surface tension of the glass, and it will break. I've had punties where I've had with the punty is the translation for punty means bridge. In the Italian terms, I guess, and it's like a bridge from myself to my glass piece, and it's a rod that you attach to the bottom of a vessel or whatever you're making, so you can hold this piece once your blowpipe is removed. And there's a lot of times where I've had a punty on top attached to a vessel, and it had I shouldn't say a lot of times, but it's happened where you have a fine micro scratch that you don't see or are not aware of, and you're going to do something with it, and all of a sudden it just snaps off at that one little point, and you can't figure out what happened, and then you realize there was this tiniest little micro fiber scratch in the glass. It's like water tension, it completely kills the tension of the surface of the glass. It's pretty incredible because glass is super, super, super strong. I tried sometimes to score and snap a rod where you put a little scratch in the surface, and then you go to hit it on the end of a table or something like that. It's really hard. It's not good.
I just saw a picture on Instagram this morning when I woke up, was dazedly going through my feed, and there was an artist who was doing pulling Marinis. And he's his caption just showed he had this huge crack in this nice solid table already, the solid stone table. And he's like, 3 Marinis in, and I've already cracked my brand new table. Awesome!
Oh my god!
Because part of it is doing that quick break off where you sever it and you take this big chunk and just crack, give it a good whack. So that's that gives a little bit of a testament to how strong the glass can be. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's weird too, man. On that same note, I've gotten tubes in the mail where the end was broken in the mail on accident, whatever, and about 6 to 10 inches up past that shattered area of the glass, that the molecule structure on the tube is totally freaked out and stressed out. And I've had 45 and 55 or 44 and 50 millimeter heavy wall tube where I got down to that point in the glass and that literally would just explode because of the vibration that was sent down the tube and that process of it breaking. I mean, even maybe a foot or two down, really crazy. Because a lot of times with tubes, you would usually use your flame to rip them in half so they're more manageable to work with, whether you're pulling points or attaching blowpipes. And even that halfway point on a 4-foot tube of glass, it exploded because of the vibration that was sent down from that broken area. So,
that's crazy. So, do you suggest for people just to make sure you always anneal pieces first then, right? As soon as you get done, or anneal your sections?
Yeah, if you have broken ends and that kind of stuff, you can anneal them. A lot of times, the smaller the diameter of the glass, the least affected it is, I think, is how it works. So if you have, say you're working some 32 millimeter, but that's got a 4.7 millimeter thick wall, and you have a 4-inch section and the end of it's broken, you definitely want to throw it in the kiln, and it just because that end that's been broken at the is going to cause a lot of stress in that 4 to 6 inch area. If it's any bigger, a lot of times kilns aren't big enough to be able to stick it in there and heat it up and anneal it properly. But on a smaller, manageable size, definitely a pre-anneal and preheat your pieces before you use them if they have been broken in the tubes.
Absolutely.
The rod's not necessarily. You can just snap them off or whatever. A little bit different story. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Heck yeah, man. So again, the borosilicate glass, it's the root and foundation for what we do as pipe makers, but it's also in the art of glass world. It's becoming more used and more used in the sculptural element. A lot of clarity, especially in the higher quality glasses. You see these horse figurines and different types of patterns and sculptures and shapes and stuff, and they just have like this sparkle to it because of how clear and the glass is, you know.
I mean, absolutely. There's nothing like nice. There's nothing more beautiful than like taking out a brand new like beautiful piece of clear glass. Sometimes, like, you know, I've heard other artists say like some of their favorite color is clear just because of that serenity that it gives, and it can be manipulated so differently, like from faceting to different, you know, like different vortex. Like clear is what makes it all possible. You know, like full color can be really cool, but without clear, like we would have none of this right now. So
yeah.
You know, it's the roots of it all.
Heck yeah. And on that note, if you guys want to find more information on the borosilicate glass and also any of the topics we will be covering in these segments, you can go to Instagram and look at Glass Knowledge page. And it's full and chock full of information. And, you know, if you want to have any input on that, Shane?
Yeah, please come join the party. We're always looking for more input. It's not just me and my buddy John doing this. We're taking input from anyone in the community. We want to know your knowledge. We want to add it to our knowledge. We're all about, like, rewriting things that need to be corrected or are, you know, possibly skewed or off in just a little bit, and like to better educate the community. So come join us and educate the community. Like, get a little knowledge. A little knowledge never hurt anyone.
Heck yeah, get some glass knowledge. Whether you're a glass blower or an enthusiast, we are here for you. Next week we will be covering wrap and rake. And wrap and rakes are one of the basic foundational techniques and lessons learned when you start off an apprenticeship. So stay tuned for that episode. It's going to be fun.
Until next time.
Thank you guys so much for listening to this episode of the Wise Guy Radio Show. If you have any questions, comments, or remarks, please leave them in the show notes page area where it says comments. We'll see you soon. Have a wise night.
You're listening to the Wise Guy Radio Show.